Welcome to Highland League Weekly, the podcast. I'm Ryan Cryle and I'm joined by Callum Law and Paul Third as we discuss all of the matches that took place in the Davidson Banchory Highland League Cup over Friday and Saturday. This is taken, this chat, from our main Highland League Weekly web show over on the Press and Journal website, where we this week got highlights of the tie between Inverurie Locos and Buckie Thistle. Become a subscriber to the website, you can watch those right now, but if you just want to chat about the results, we're going to start with that main game. The game at Highland Park finished 2-2 after the 90 minutes, went to penalties. Inverurie Locos winning 4-3 in the shootout. I mean, it was a pretty good cup tie, this one, loads to talk about.
It was an excellent cup tie. I thought first half particularly really end-to-end stuff, both teams going for it. Dean Donaldson was saying it afterwards, but I thought first half an hour, especially Inverurie, were very good. The sort of runs in behind for Ethan Cairns, Callum Duncan, they caused Bucky problems. But the Jags, for being 2-0 down, they rallied really well. I mean, Lyle Keir's goal's an absolute screamer, and Ryan Fife's free kicks, nae bad either. And then second half was maybe a wee bit more edgy, but still an entertaining watch and a good game. And going to penalties, I think, was about right at the end of the 90 minutes. And then in the shootout, it's a chance for somebody to be a hero, and Zach Ellis was that player for Inverurie, made the two saves in the shootout, and obviously the last one for Marcus Goodall's the one that gets him through. I do think, though, Theo Simpson, the Bucky goal, is very unlucky because he saved one penalty, but he saves the first one as well. And for me, when you pause it, as Paul Coote strikes the ball, he's still got a foot on the line, which is all you need, and I'd find it hard. It's not the perfect angle, but I find it hard to fathom why they've said that he's off his line, and then it's been made to be retaken, and Paul Coote has obviously scored. And that's one of them where you don't know what impact that has, like, in terms of the rest of the shootout. But I do think Bucky were unlucky with that, really, because I thought it was a perfectly good save for Theo Simpson. But overall, for Inverurie, it's a really big victory to get through and keep themselves in the cup, and it keeps alive that sort of hope of winning something, because you look at the season so far, it's been hard for them. That's only their fourth win in 18 matches in all competitions. They're 16th in the league, and they were knocked out of the Evening Express Aberdeenshire Cup in the first round, the Scottish Cup in the first round. So to get through is a big deal for them, and now sort of with the boost of getting through on Saturday, you look to Wednesday and they're playing Keith in the Morrison Motors Turriff Aberdeenshire Shield, and that's a chance to get into the semi-final of that. And if they go through on Wednesday as well, it sort of puts a bit of a different slant on their season so far.
Yeah, I did think with Theo Simpson, I was quite struck by how calm he was about it. I think it was like an older, more experienced goalkeeper. He might have got a bit more sort of fury at that decision. Obviously, a few decisions in the game, like offside calls as well, but the one we'll have to talk about is Josh Peters getting sent off, because it might have not been immediately apparent to viewers what Josh Peters got his second yellow card for, but we have an exact.
That'd be song, wasn't it?
I was able to speak to Owen Lawrence after the game, and I'm told that although you see Josh Peters speaking, I'm told it was his second booking was for dissent by action, for waving his arms about, which it is within. If you look up dissent by action within the sort of laws of the game, it relates to sort of maybe like overzealous skin gestures, or like racing up to the referee, or sarcastic applauding, or that kind of thing. To me, I feel like it's not even a particularly strong.
Trying to fly is basically what
I haven't got a free kick. Go on with that.
It's like going,
it's not really a particularly strong reaction, and I just feel it doesn't meet the threshold. And obviously disagreeing with the man in charge there, and Owen felt it did, and that was his decision. But what I would say is it's all about consistency, because if that meets the threshold for a booking, there's going to be an awful lot. Like, I haven't seen many bookings for that sort of thing this season, and if that meets the threshold and officials are being consistent, there'll be a lot of bookings for reactions, a lot a lot worse than that this season. So I had a lot of sympathy with Josh Peters there. I think it's one of them, like, was what I'm saying about consistency, like 8 or 9 times out of 10, he doesn't get booked there. I just think that's the one, like, instance where the referee's gone, you know what, I'm going to book you here. And I mean, that's his decision, but I just thought, for me, it's not a booking. I think as well, understand he's late. He could actually argue his first booking's pretty soft as well, but that's probably opening another can of worms.
Yeah, I did think if we got the raw footage from that game, how many times would we see a player go at that after the decision and not get booked? That's the thing. Anyway, many other cup ties to get through from the weekend. We'll start with Brechin City 3, Clach 2 on these ones. Boost for me with James Anderson scoring the opener for Clach. But Finlay Allen and Fraser McLeod pulled goals back for Brechin, put Brechin ahead. After the break, Alan McPhee, though, he levelled late on.
It was actually Struan Colin.
It was actually Struan Colin, okay. Only for Grady McGrath to score the winner work. I think it was a minute later. So, I mean, it's a good win for Brechin, showed a lot of character in the game. I mean, if you're Clach and you get yourself back level, I suppose it's one of those you don't want to concede against Australia.
The classic cup tie, isn't it? It's Finlay Allen's goal, first of all. I mean, the pace he shows is what really hurt Clach for Brechin's first goal. But and I think Grady McGrath as well, at 2-1 up, he has a terrific chance to go and put this tie to bed. He's clean through in goal and just hoofs it straight over the bar into the stand behind the goal. And if that goes in, it's game over. Then Clach get their late equaliser, and you're thinking, terrific, this is going to penalties. What an effort from Clach to stay in the game, because as we know, Brechin's a tough place for any team to go. But yeah, McGrath makes amends with a very well taken goal, drills it well into the bottom corner. So yeah, a fantastic result for Brechin. They'll be delighted to go through. A lot of pride for Clach in defeat as well, I would think as well. But yeah, it was interesting. I mean, Conor Gethins after the game had touched on the fact that he'd been just buried his father the day before the game, so the game meant very little to him. Everything sort of been put into perspective, obviously with thoughts of Conor and his family after this difficult time. But yeah, I'm sure when he comes away and he looks back, he should be proud of the efforts his team gave.
Yeah.
The only thing I would add, you were on about James Anderson, that goal actually ticks him to the top of the scoring charts in all competitions. Set 17, now he's one ahead of Callum Frame.
Long way to go.
Keep it up, James. Keep it up. All right. Formartine United 6, Lossiemouth 0 is our next one. I mean, pretty comprehensive this. Rory McAllister opened the scoring when he returned from suspension. Further goals from Julian Wade and Luke Strachan in the first half for Hamish Ritchie double and an own goal in the second period. Formartine's biggest win of the season.
Aye, and thoroughly emphatic, really, and impressive stuff to get through, you know, in a totally convincing manner. And for Formartine supporters, they would probably say as well, maybe sounds stupid, but the right player scoring, or the players they want to see scoring in terms of Rory McAllister back among the goals, Julian Wade again, Hamish Ritchie, the sort of forward players that sort of hang their hat on, all doing the business. And I think, to be fair, Formartine have probably felt a result like that's been coming for a while, because there's been games this season where they've maybe played equally as well, but haven't made the most of their chances, and maybe haven't racked up that really convincing scoreline, but they certainly did it on Saturday, and they'll be pleased to be through. I think for Lossie, they'll just be really disappointed that they haven't really competed in the manner they would expect. Like, obviously it's a hard game going away to North Lodge Park, but the Coasters, I think, as a minimum, expect to be hard to beat and difficult to play against, and, you know, in a one-off game, give themselves a chance by staying in the game, and they really weren't able to do that on Saturday, which was unfortunate for them.
The next one was a bit closer. Forest Mechanics 1, Brora Rangers 2. Matt Jameson had put the Can-Cans ahead, but the goals from Shane Sutherland and Tony Dingwall gave the Cats victory. Steve Mackay after the game, I think he thought that Brora could have put the game to bed, but equally Steve McDonald, Forest boss, he felt there could have been a late equaliser from his side, so close run thing, this one.
Aye, there was plenty of, I haven't seen highlights of this game, there was plenty of action, plenty of excitement at both ends. I mean, Forest, after getting that good start, they just had a glancing header for Callum Frame. It just, sort of went beyond the far post, and it's one of them for the Cancans where I thought goes in your 2-0, although it's early. You'd be interested to see how it played out, but Brora came back into the game well, and I mean, I can see where Stephen Mackay's coming from as well, because Tony Dingwall has won with a score at 1-1 where he goes round the goalie and should score, but hits the post, sort of stumbled a wee bit. Connor Bunce is unlucky with a really good acrobatic effort that comes off the post. But in the end, Brora did manage to, take another of their chances and get that second goal. But I know Forrest will be really frustrated with how they sort of conceded that, because they gave the ball away cheaply in the edge of their own box. And if you do that against a good side like Brora, you get punished. But certainly having been beaten 6-0 last weekend, I know Stephen McDonald was pleased that as a minimum he got a good sort of competitive performance against a very good opponent, but they were, they've just come out on the wrong side of the scoreline. But Brora, the cup holders, and they're never good to stop, and I'm sure nobody will particularly relish playing against them in the next round.
Huntly 2, Nairn County 3, late Paul Brindle winner in this one. Ben Barron had scored the first half opener for Nairn, but Andy Hunter equalised in 58 minutes and then levelled again after tie where Edie had made it 2-1. Nairn, fast start for Andy Hunter on his return to Huntly, but ultimately Nairn decided to progress.
I think Nairn deserved it on the highlights that I've watched. It's funny. Andy Hunter, first of all, you get the ball to Andy Hunter, he's going to put it in the back of the net. 3 goals in 2 games. He's carried on firmly where he left off in his last spell with the Black and Golds. Nairn, 10 now, I think, for Ben Barron. They're going well. That's 4 away wins in a row now. So they certainly seem to be finding a bit of form, and going away from home, it's not a challenge for them at all. They'll be delighted to go through. For Huntly, I don't know, it's focus on the league now and try and finish as high up the table as you possibly can, because that's the cup competition's gone. But no, Nairn, a great result for Nairn.
Keith Mill, Fraserburgh 1. The only goal in this contest at Kenwick Park arrived in the 25th minute when ball forward wasn't dealt with by Murray Addison, giving Scott Barber the chance to finish for the Brock. It did sound like Fraserburgh had a lot of chances in the early going in this one, but when Keith, I think even Mark Howey said, turned it on late in the game, Fraserburgh could have paid for that wastefulness by the sound of things.
It's a funny sort of tie, this, because I think the Brock, I think Logan Watt especially, but also Scott Barber and Sean Butcher will all feel that they left goals out there that they could have scored. But I think Fraserburgh certainly first half and early part of the second half were the better side and were in front, but they didn't get that second goal, which might have made things more comfy. And Keith had a couple of good openings, especially in the second half. Zach Toe was denied by a good save for Joe Barber, and then they'd one where Tristan Stevens capitalised on a loose back pass and he got round the goalie, but the angle was sort of against him a wee bit and he's just flashed it right across the face. So, it's one of them, especially that second chance, that was with sort of 10 minutes to go, and if that goes in, Keith have the momentum, and it could have been penalties, but you're not sure how the sort of closing stages might have played out. But I think going on chances created, you would hate to sort of say Fraserburgh over the piece deserved their victory, but at the same time, with the way it panned out, Keith are sort of left wondering what might have been. It was also, I mentioned him there, but Tristan Stephen, it'll be interesting to see, I think, how he gets on at Kenwick Park, because he's been on loan to Lossiemouth from Aberdeen and played bits and pieces, but maybe not as much as he would have hoped for. And Keith have sort of been looking to improve or bolster in the forward areas, and he's gone to the Maroons, and I think he's got the scope to do well there. And I know Craig Ewan was happy enough with his debut on Saturday, although obviously if he'd scored it would have been better, but I think there's the potential for him to be quite useful for Keith going forward.
Turriff United 6, Rothes 0. Another one-sided tie. This one, Murray Cormack hat-trick, and then Ryan McLean, Sam Garnham and Mackenzie Taylor are the other goals as Turriff found their way in the quarterfinals.
Great result for Turriff, great day at the office for Turriff. If there's one thing we've come to see from Turriff this season, they're wearing this badge of we're the youngest team in the league with pride, and Saturday was probably a day where it showed how good they can be when it all clicks and comes together. Have to say, though, they were aided and abetted by some pretty poor Rothes defending, and I'm sure that's not the first time we've said that. The confidence is really low. among the Spaysiders, and yeah, they're struggling, and it's been a long time since they got a result, and they need to tighten up at the back and give themselves a chance, because well, going away and shipping 6 is not doing anything to help anyone at the minute.
Okay, well done to Turriff, especially Keen Yates. The final tie to discuss from the weekend actually took place on Friday night. That was Banks of D's 4-1 win at home to Deveronvale. Liam Jewell screamer, and then Joe McCabe goal had D 2 up here. Vale were then down to 10 men. So a slightly disputed red card for Austin Sparks for denying a goal scoring opportunity. It's 2-1 before the break though, because Fergus Alberts pulled the goal back, but then 2 Magnus Watson goals finished it off for D. Worth noting this one, Banks of D pretty threadbare squad-wise. A team that at the start of the season you were thinking, God, they've got so many options, but now they're kind of struggling a bit.
Well, Paul Lawson was speaking about that after, and I mean, they had a few, like Sam Pugh did a suspension, because suspension's now a competition specific. He did a suspension for last season, carried over, so it's like, we'll have him back this weekend, and then a couple of their minor niggles, but there were only 3 outfield subs on the bench. But it was interesting, Paul Lawson was sort of saying they are looking to try and add a couple of bodies, because if you look at recently, like Hamish McLeod, Andy Hunter, Jason Selby, Alex Balfour have all moved on in the last month or so, and that has just sort of reduced maybe their options a wee bit. So it'll be interesting to see if they can do some business, get a couple in. But in terms of the game, it's a kind of funny game in a lot of ways, because I wouldn't have said Banks had created and like abundance of chances, but they still scored 4 goals, you know what I mean? Which they took the chances when they came along. I mean, Liam Jewell's goal was a tremendous strike for long range. Then I know Deveronvale were angry with the second goal because they've sort of left Joe McCabe totally free at a set piece free kick, round about the penalty spot. And, Joe always likes to make his presence felt at set pieces. So, it was meat and drink for him to score. And then the red card, there was sort of Magnus Watson sort of gets away from Austin Sparks at inside right channel, and Austin Sparks just hacked him down from behind, and there was sort of the argument there was potentially a player in the middle coming across as a covering player, and I don't know because I wasn't speaking to the officials afterwards, but the denying a clear goal scoring opportunity, sort of you could see it go either way. But what I would say as well is that it was sort of that poor a challenge that the officials might turn around and say it was sort of the challenge was that reckless that it deserved a red card or whatever. So it was one of them. But I knew, Gary Wood afterwards had no complaints, and he sort of said he could understand like what Austin Sparks was thinking in terms of like try and stop it. It was 2-0, didn't want to get any worse, but actually sizing him down the manner he did, getting sent off, it didn't really help either. So it was one of them. But to be fair to Deveronvale, they scored just after that through Fergus Alberts, although that was sort of one, maybe the dubious goals panel would look at that, because there was a lot of debate whether it was his goal or a Joe McCabe own goal, but in the end it was given to him, and I'm sure Joe's arguing that he's winning it anyway. But after they scored, and then at 2-1, and that's for sort of 25 minutes of second half, they dug in and battled without ever really having that maybe big chance to equalise. They dug in and battled hard, Deveronvale, but then once Magnus Watson got the third, that was game over, and he scored a good fourth as well. And I mean, Banks of D, they've obviously a good record in cup competitions in recent seasons as well, and they'll be pleased to be through in 12 matches unbeaten. I'm sure they'll fancy their chances of trying to go all the way.
Just finally, Callum, quite unfortunate timing for us draw-wise today, but we should hopefully be able to get the ties on screen, should we?
Well, hopefully, the draw, when you're watching this, the draw will have been made, but it's 12 o'clock on Monday, the draw is being made, so
hopefully the technical gremlins don't get in the way.
We should be able to show you who's playing who in the next round, which is the first Saturday in December.
Okay, well that's all of the games from over the weekend discussed. Just a reminder that if you want to watch highlights of Inverurie Locos against Buckie Thistle, you can do so over on our main Highland League Weekly web show on the Press and Journal website. You need to be a subscriber to access that, but you can subscribe via our sports pack. thank you to Callum and Paul for joining me today. Until we see you next, please keep up to date with everything Highland League and Highland League Weekly from the Press and Journal via our social media channels, and enjoy the football, whichever games you're watching.